Welcome back for some card-based science. I'm your host, Boston PhD. Joining me as always is Dr. Moon.
Hello, I guess.
We're here to talk about the ranking of Hand of Fate 2. We finished our month-long journey into the multiple card-based dungeons. And we're here to figure out where it sits in our giant list of the best roguelikes of all time. But let's start off with sort of a recap slash our final review of the game here, and then ask the question we ask every ranking, which is, will we keep playing the game or not? Moon, let's start with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'd like to think I'm going to keep playing this game because number one, it's only like 2 gigs. So
Mm-hmm.
those who listen to the main show know that that's not going to affect my problems in the slightest.
It's all the way at the bottom of that list.
Yes. I think I've got like 6 games installed that are lower than this. So
Oh,
that should
wow.
tell you what you need to know. Like I do like this game. I love the Hand of Fate series as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I did like a lot of what they did, but there are some things that I didn't like. Like, I do not like the spinny circle dial thing.
Yeah,
Um,
the roulette one?
yes, I don't like that one because there is no point where it marks on the screen where when you press the button here, this is what you'll get. Like when it's going very slow, that seems to work. If you hit the button at like 3 o'clock, then it will stop at like 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But as it speeds up, you're just like, oh no, like this, none of this matters. None of this is
Yeah,
like I'm
like,
just pressing the button and hoping for the best.
right.
Like uh, I don't know. I like the dice. I'm not gonna lie, I do like the dice inclusion.
Yep.
That's pretty solid. Um, I still don't mind the 4 cards, which is funny because the 4 cards is kind of about as random as you can go when it starts doing multiple shuffles.
Mm-hmm. It's the
Um,
classic shell game from the first one.
yes, but the difference is like just like in the first one, if it was only one thing, you could get an idea of like at least one correct answer because you saw which one went on top, and then when you saw which one went on top, you knew that what that one was. When it does
Sure.
the multiple shuffles, it becomes a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's only the one, you can still relatively easily cheese that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I like it. I do. I genuinely do like this game. I will probably keep playing it because it has achievements and therefore I have a problem. So
Right.
the usual kind of stuff. I don't think I like it as much as the first one.
Yeah. I think that's been our big question this entire time we've played this game, is like, we clearly love the first one. I mean, if you've been listening for any amount of time, Hand of Fate, the first one is number 2 in our list. It only got beaten by Hades. Like, that's how much we love the first Hand of Fate.
Yeah, and it's also because could be because it's a completely different spin. Like
Mm-hmm.
as much as I hate to say this, like when if you look at our list here, there is a lot. Like as soon as you get out of like the top 4,
Mm-hmm.
mm, out of the top 3, there are a lot of games with similar things. Like
Mm-hmm.
Neon Breach is very similar
Like,
to
Risk of Rain.
yes, to Risk of Rain, to Dungreed. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
all very similar kind of games.
Yep.
Hand of Fate is kind of a one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is, there is not a lot of deck building games that run the same way this does, with the mixture of deck building and dialogue choices and combat encounters and luck of the draw kind of things. Like it's a very interesting combination of everything.
Yeah, and we're at the end of this month, at the end of October 2021, if you're listening to this in the future. Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars is going to come out, which looks like it's somehow a spiritual successor to Hand of Fate 1 and 2, which is wild because, if anyone didn't know, the developers behind Hand of Fate 2 closed not too long after Hand of Fate 2 because none of the games well, let's be honest, Hand of Fate 1 and 2 just weren't super successful, and they weren't able to keep the doors open, which
Yep.
is a real bummer. But hopefully we'll see some spiritual successors here. Maybe Yoko Taro's sort of making one here.
Yeah, and like I think they said like they closed the door. The entity is still alive, so the
Mm-hmm.
company themselves still do get any money made from the selling of the games.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of sucks that
Yeah.
these poor people like put their heart and soul into a genuinely great game, and they couldn't keep the doors open.
Yeah. Just it flew too far under the radar, I think, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Um. I have the same struggles here. I genuinely love Hand of Fate 2. Um, I think the longer I play, the more positively I feel about all of the different games of chance. I think I like the pendulum one. That's probably one of my favorite of the new ones. The dice one is great, but I mean you're just rolling dice, so it's not like revolutionary or anything. I like the idea of the roulette one, but I'm with you that I feel like the lack of consistency, which is probably the point, but the lack of consistency on if I hit the X button here, then the one that's like coming around at the 3 o'clock position is gonna hit at the 6 o'clock. You know, like I'm
Yeah.
sure that because there's, except for the dice game, each of the other 3 games have some randomness associated with them. So like the 4 card shuffle will do, sometimes it'll go fast, sometimes it'll go slow, sometimes it'll do 3 shuffles, sometimes it'll do one.
Mm-hmm.
The pendulum, that the thing swings faster. Sometimes there'll be more red blocks. You know, there's a little bit of variation there. And I didn't feel like that as much with the roulette, but I feel like it didn't show up that often. But when it did, it was pretty impactful and not in a positive way.
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
like it will probably be the reason I never finished that burning building card. I don't know what I would have to probably like maybe the 4th companion, which I never got. Maybe they would help slow down that or something. I'm not entirely sure. Um, I think at the end of the day, I liked Hand of Fate 2 more than Hand of Fate 1 for kind of the opposite reasons why I liked Hand of Fate 1. Like the first Hand of Fate is a very focused, kind of stripped down, direct game. And it is
Mm-hmm.
just, here is X number of challenges across this board. There's no super variations on them except for the boss fights. Um, and you just kind of crawl through these dungeons, and it's a pretty straightforward thing. I like that game a lot for that reason, but I really like Hand of Fate 2 because you have these, like I was saying recently, these almost like mini D&D campaigns throughout all 22 of these different challenges.
Yeah.
You have the variety between all 4 of these different games of luck, games of chance. Sometimes you can pick which one you want, where it's like, okay, they gave me a choice of here's 3 different ones. I have the an equipment that gives me +2 on every dice roll. I'm picking dice every time I possibly can. I like that there's a greater amount of variation there, and I like that there's this sort of terrifyingly deep endless mode over there in the corner that I'm like not trying not to look at,
Oh, yeah.
because that would just be like, here's my streaming career, endless mode in Hand of Fate 2 for the next 10 years. Um, and it's like the hardest thing because it's a little bit less because it makes the game more complex and sort of strays away from the simplicity of the first one that I liked. But I think after playing a ton of it, I feel like that's overall a boon for the game. But it's one of those ones where it's like, if someone came to me and they were like, "Yeah, I like the Hand of Fate 1 a lot more than Hand of Fate 2." It's like, "Yeah, I get it." Like
Yeah,
it's not like one of these ones where it's like you have to play Hand of Fate 2 because it makes the first one garbage. It's not like Zone of the Enders where it's like don't bother with the first one. This is the one where it's at. So will I keep playing it? Yes, and I still am. So I have like I still haven't beaten the strength challenge to get the last companion. I'm not sure I ever will, but I will keep giving it the old college try. Okay, here comes the hard part. we gotta
uh-huh.
we gotta put it in the list. We're gonna start here at number 15 with Descenders. We decided this before the show here. So is Hand of Fate 2 better than Descenders?
Oh,
It's a hard one for you.
yes. For me, this is particularly
Mm,
difficult because I am 1000% a Descenders fanboy. Yes, it's better.
okay. I agree. I think Descenders is really great. Descenders is another example of like, oh, this is a
Unique
great game.
roguelikes.
Oh, it's a roguelike. Cool. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than BPM bullets per minute?
Speaking of unique games,
Yeah, for sure. For me, this is an easy yes because I think.
because you suck at BPM.
Well, I mean, I'm trying not to hold that against the game. I'm trying not to hold my mediocrity against the game. Um, I think BPM is a really cool game, but I feel like there's a lot of content in there. It was a very small team, so like obviously they couldn't pack it full of stuff, but it kind of is that mechanic throughout the entire thing. Like it's the beat changes a little bit, the how you have to reload and shoot weapons changes a little bit between each one, but there's nothing kind of fundamentally different about the game throughout all of your runs.
Yeah. Yeah, let's put her above it. And we might as well just say it right now. Nuclear Throne is too hard. Put her above that too.
Deal. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Dicey Dungeons?
Again,
A kind of like
have you
shockingly similar game.
have we noticed how like literally it's the ones that all seem to have unique hooks to them that end up higher in our lists, generally
Weird.
speaking?
Weird,
Huh.
yeah.
Huh.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Weird how that works. No.
I like,
Yes.
yeah, I think for this one, this is a yes for me too. I like Dicey Dungeons, and I really love how each one of the chapters for each character is so different from the other. But I feel like Hand of Fate 2 is a kind of a deeper game overall. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Has Been Heroes?
Well, we don't have the traitor in our midst anymore.
The Defender.
Yes. I'd like Has Been Heroes. Has Been Heroes is a great game. Has Been Heroes is too much content, I would argue, based on
It's a
how
cool
much I
game.
played of that game and how much is left to play.
An impossible mountain of content.
Uh-huh. Oh,
I,
yeah, I
I
think
would
it
put it.
is.
I would put it over personally. I think Has Been Heroes. It's another like. It's another really cool thing where it's this 3-lane kind of
If you're a
Plants
fan of like
vs Zombies tower defense thing.
yeah, and if you're a fan of like JRPGs that have the ATB system in it, give
Mm,
that game a go. Because
yeah,
that
for
game is
sure.
the ATB system distilled down to its purest form.
Mm.
Actually, it's ATB system combined with the triangle combat system from Fire
From like
Emblem.
SRPGs. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Enter the Gungeon? Here's the tough one for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, talk,
Mm.
talk about another game with like almost too much content. Enter the Gungeon is just like
Almost 100%, dude.
jam packed full of good stuff.
Enter the Gungeon and Isaac are two
Yes.
games
Yeah.
that are impossible to get into now because they have too much stuff.
Please, Isaac only has like 800 items. What's the problem?
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Um, I like Enter the Gungeon a whole lot. Like it's one of my favorite roguelikes of all time. But there's something about Hand of Fate 2 that I think puts it over it for me. Um, I I think I like the so for anyone listening when this comes out, we just finished Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York, which is like a visual novel thing. I
Uh-huh.
think part of why I like Hand of Fate 2 is it's kind of not visual novel aspect, but the kind of like the D&D world building, uh, dungeon master aspect of each one of these cards has a story to tell. Sometimes you complete a card and you get the next card in the story, like you're pulling 3 or 4 cards to kind of tell the rest of the story. And I think that's such a cool, unique thing that not a lot of these roguelikes can do, like continuing a story that run over run or even kind of like floor over floor in the dungeon. Hades, of course, is kind of famous for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I do like Hand of Fate better.
Hmm.
Don't remember, I especially like the fact that it's so full of puns.
Yes.
But I think I prefer the slower style of Hand of Fate these days.
Yeah.
Because Gungeon can be fast and insane and bullet hell at times, and it's just
Yeah.
it's one of those games where when you stop playing it, then you're in trouble. Because when you
Yeah.
stop playing it, that's when you have to go back and just like, oh, this boss, I'm so dead.
Right. Yeah. Like getting back on that bike is a little hard. Uh,
Mhm.
all right. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Risk of Rain?
The difficult one for you, Boston.
I don't know. I feel like Risk of Rain's strength and weakness is that there aren't 800 items. There's
50?
50, something like that, like way less than 100. um i I think that means that the amount of combinations and synergies and stuff like that you run into in uh Risk of Rain is fairly low. um and I think Risk of Rain is really solid, and it definitely is one of those games that like lives on my PS5 all the time, and I just fire it up if I'm looking to do something on a rainy day. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think it scratches that same itch that Hand of Fate 2 does, where Hand of Fate 2 is like, I'm going to play a campaign, I'm going to craft my loadout, I'm going to try and clear burning building for once. So I'm going to set up the perfect
Uh,
deck to do it. Like
I
stupid burning building. I'll get you one day.
hate,
I'll get that
I hate
token.
that card like so much.
I'll get that token, and I know it's not going to be good. I haven't looked it up, but I know it's not going to be worth the trouble. Um,
No.
I would personally put it over Risk of Rain 1, because I think it's one of those games that like it clicks with me in like that inexplicable way more than Risk of Rain does.
Hmm.
I just think it's neat. That sort of metric.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So where now the question is how do we proceed from here?
So is Hand of Fate 2 better than Void Bastards? Hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like talk about another cool, neat individual thing. Like
You're rehydrated prisoners. That in itself is a selling point.
in like this retro FPS exploration, like FTL style map navigation thing.
Yeah,
I think Void Bastards has what I would consider a fairly large difficulty spike around the halfway point of the game, which I'm more than sure we talked about,
we did
15
because
years ago when we talked about it.
that's the thing that bothered me about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, yeah, it was like 60 episodes ago, dude.
Yeah, that might as well have been like when I was 20.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh wait, no, it wasn't 50. I'm looking at the wrong number. It was like 120 episodes ago, dude.
there,
Yeah, it was like,
there you go. Yikes.
yeah. I like Neon Abyss, but I do think that difficulty spike right in the middle, like when you start to get deeper into the game, makes it so much harder.
Mm-hmm. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Neon Abyss?
I think so.
It's funny
I
that
love.
we have Neon Abyss this high when we're just like crap talking this entire subgenre of like 2D side scrolling, almost Metroidvania roguelikes.
But I think that the difference is though is Neon Abyss is one of the rare moments when things come together well. Because let's face it, Hades
Mm-hmm.
does nothing original. The
No,
Hades is not the first isometric action-based roguelike game.
dungeon
It's not.
crawler. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's
no,
100% not. The thing is Hades does it perfectly.
yeah.
And
Hades is like
I
the most polished.
yes, and it has everything you love to see. It has story-based reasons to do the same things. It has everything's different. There's always a reason to go back in.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think Neon Abyss is the quintessential version of that for that 2D
Yeah,
side-scrolling
it's such
version.
like a tightly designed and tightly controlled game. Like it's
Hmm
so. I went back to it recently to play it again. I was like, gosh, this is just a really great video game, man.
Yeah, and it takes the best bits from other games, not in the same style, and implements them into it. It's got all of the puns from Enter the
Mm-hmm.
Gungeon, for
Yep.
example. It's full of those. It's got like the companion system from Isaac with the eggs
Yep.
and the chance to get things like that. It's got the different weapons from something like Gungeon and different fire rates. It's got the heaven and hell deals that you see in both.
Yep.
I think that's in both Gungeon and Isaac as well. Like it takes that all that stuff and it doesn't whiff the controls.
Yeah.
But I still think I prefer Hand of Fate 2.
Yeah. I feel like this might be maybe just like where we're at the time of year or where we're at sort of mentally in quarantine or whatever, but like the slower nature of Hand of Fate 2 where I like don't 100% need to dedicate all of my brain power to it, where something like Enter the Gungeon, Neon Abyss, like those are games you have to be paying attention to. I feel like Hand of Fate
Mhm.
2 is clicking really nicely for kind of this time of year.
Yeah.
I would agree. Neon Abyss is a great game and like it deserves to sit where it sits, but I think Hand of Fate 2 is better. Oh god, this one's hard. Is Hand of Fate 2 better than Into the Breach? Oh, talk about like a perfectly designed game. Gosh.
Yeah. It's about as SRPG as you can possibly make a roguelike and have it still work. And again, story reasons why it's a roguelike. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
It's like one of the it's so funny cuz like still I remember reading the sales pitch for Into the Breach. It's like it's like a turn-based kind of strategy game where you know every move the enemies are going to make before they make them. And it's like, wait,
Why is
what?
that hard?
Right? Like, I'm sorry, did you just break your own game? Like, I'm what? But man, does it work? And it turns it into like this incredible chess game of just, oh, if I do this, then they'll do that, then this will do no, but then that'll do that. So let me do, and it's just like spending 30 minutes staring at one screen that's not moving. It's just like, what do I do?
So here is the question.
Mm.
Because I think Hand of Fate is rapidly reaching the end of its climb.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting to the point where these These choices are quickly becoming difficult. Very, very difficult.
Personally, I put it above Into the Breach. Personally, but
Okay.
I'm not the huge SRPG fan that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, Into the Breach is one of the best designed games on this list. Period. Like the art style, the sound design in that
Oh
game
man.
is insanely
I mean,
good.
it's number 6 for a very, very good reason.
Yeah, I put it above it just because I prefer this kind of game to an SRPG,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think it stops.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably wouldn't crack the top 5 for you because I think Everspace is
So
too
good.
strong of a game.
It's so good for me. So it's honestly, this is on you. This is on you. So if you think that Hand of Fate 2 stops right here
Mm-hmm.
and Into the Breach is better, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you think it goes one higher, then we can get into the Everspace argument. Because Into the Breach is arguably one of the most perfect games on this list.
Pa pa pa. I think I would put Hand of Fate 2 over Into the Breach.
Would you put it above Everspace?
See, here's the problem. Let me scooch this above Into the Breach here on our list before I forget. Here's my thing. Hand of the Fate 2, for me, is number 2 in this list. I think it
Oof.
beats Hand of Fate 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it beats Hades because I don't know what game is going to come along that's going to beat Hades. Everspace 2, maybe?
It's not even a roguelike is the problem.
Crap, it isn't. No, we can't talk about it on this show. Go check out Everspace 2 when it comes out. Curses. Isaac 2, maybe? Like, Isaac 2 is probably
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that could maybe sort of beat Hades. I'm not really interested in pushing Hand of Fate 2 higher than Everspace because I think all of the games above so for anyone that isn't watching the video version, everything above Hand of Fate 2 right now is Everspace, Dead Cells, Necrodancer, Hand of Fate 1, and Hades, sort of in reverse order. I think all of those are 10 out of 10 games, including Everspace. Like, Everspace is a wild, crazy, incredible game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. How about this? How about a
Sure.
compromise here?
Mm.
Because I get it. Everspace is for me. I am the
Mm-hmm.
oh 07 of the group. And thank
Right.
you for understanding that reference if you got it.
Right.
I get it. Everspace is it's very much like Gungeon. It's very much like Risk of Rain. It's designed for me personally, just like they are designed for you.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we take the slightly derivative ones off this list, and we say Everspace down one, Dead Cells down one, because both great games,
Mm-hmm.
both amazing roguelikes, believe the three unique ones above this. So Crypt stays where it is, Hand stays where it is, and Hades stays where it is. Because I like Hand of Fate too, but it's more Hand of Fate with a little bit of extra stuff in there. They've done a lot of extra stuff, don't get me wrong.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
the stories are so good, the endless mode looks interesting. So many cards and so many like the new shard system where you get like 6 shards to unlock a card, like that's cool as
We
well.
didn't even check out the DLC either, which is like, here's a new companion and a buttload of new cards and a bunch of new campaign stuff. Like, we didn't even get over there. So you're suggesting that Hand of Fate 2 sits at number 4?
Correct. Knocks everything else down one by Dead Cells, but down Everspace, down Dead Cells. Because I cannot live if Hand of Fate 2 goes above Crypt. Because Crypt is so unique. It's so
Yeah.
special.
I feel like I wouldn't want to. Crypt and Necrodancer is just another one of those games that's just so incredibly well designed and like
Mm-hmm.
brutally difficult, but not really unfairly so. Um,
Yeah, you tell that to the last challenge I have to do. Thank you very
well,
much.
that one, yeah, that one's like, LOL. We put this in here as a joke. Whoops, we also made an achievement. Um,
Yep.
I think I could be okay with Hand of Fate 2. I feel like the Hand of Fate 2 versus Dead Cells is like a real close one. Because like I like Dead Cells a lot. Like I obviously like Metroidvanias a lot, and
Hmm.
I think the mashup of Metroidvania and roguelike is a really tough nut to crack. I think I've only uh, played one other one that I think is as successful, and I think that's called A Robot Named Fight. I think is the name of it. Um, Very much like a Super Metroid roguelike, which is a really cool game. Um, but that one's a really close one. I like Dead Cells, but I think for me, Hand of Fate 2 personally sits above it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Like I said, I don't mean to smack talk Dead Cells, but it is slightly derivative. It's essentially a
true.
side-scrolling dungeon crawling thing. Don't get me wrong, it does the Metroidvania stuff so great, and the
Yeah.
alternate pathways and stuff like that. It's like arguably it's one of those 10 out of 10 games.
hmm
It's very much arguably one of those.
But I feel like when you take it as a roguelike, the question at the end of the day, as we rate these games in this list, is X a better roguelike than Y? And I think if you look, is Hand of Fate 2 a better roguelike than Crypt? I think for me, that's a no. Not like
Hmm.
a resounding, like, hell no! But, like, I think Crypt is a more interesting, better roguelike. Like I said
Dude, that
before,
soundtrack.
soundtrack is so good. Like I said before, Hand of Fate 2 for me is like sitting just under Hades. I think Hand of Fate 2 is incredible. But I think as a roguelike, that's just me and like my cold dark heart. But I think as a roguelike, I don't think it can sit above the rest of the stuff.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we are in agreement that Hand of Fate 2 is number 4, sitting in the vaulted top 5, not just the top 10.
Hmm.
I thought we would just get in the top 10 here.
I totally forgot that literally the first episode of this show was Hand of Fate, by the way.
Yeah, like we started with a real banger, and then episode 100 was Hades. So like, we're hitting all of them. So let's talk about
Wait,
our
hold
top.
on. Hold on. So one
Mhm.
was Hand of Fate,
Yep.
100 was Hades,
hmm
150 was Hand of Fate 2.
Right.
What
Right.
was 50?
What was 50? Here on our list, that's 60, 30, 40, 80, 70. 53 was Dicey Dungeons.
And what was
So
before Dicey?
49 would have been what was
Galaxy.
before
Oh,
Galaxy. Bummer.
oh.
Dungreed
You
was
broke the streak.
45. Yeah. All right. Well, they
So,
can't all be winners. Who knows?
yeah. If you have any suggestions for episode 200 of Hot
Yes.
Bangers of Roguelikes,
Yeah.
throw them my
Yes.
way.
Yeah. So our top 5 here is Dead Cells in reverse order. Dead Cells, Hand of Fate 2, Crypt of the Necrodancer, Hand of Fate, and Hades. Like we just said a little bit ago, those are all 10 out of 10 games. Like any one of those, pick them up, play them. They're gonna be good.
Hmm.
Those are our highest recommendations.
Freddie
Whew,
Merchantry, dude.
yeah,
Freddie
pretty
Merchantry.
merchantry, man. It doesn't get much better than that. Jeez. Whew. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Our next game is going to be Griftlands. It's a 2021 release. We've been keeping our eye on this one for a little bit. I played it a little bit. We're going to play Griftlands next for our next month. And hope we'll see you all next run. Bye.
Bye.